Hello and welcome to Sitting Down with Schneider. Today is May the 2nd, and today we are going to be sitting down with Sarah Spero. Hello, Sarah. How are you?
There we go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I think maybe I need to turn up a little bit. Let me check here. I think we're good. All right, go ahead and say hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Oh, there we go. We're good. We're good. Hey, Sarah, before I say anything else or chat with you about anything, are you okay with me recording this and putting it on my YouTube channel?
Heck yeah.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So, Sarah, first thing I like to do is have you tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What kind of activities you involved in? A little bit about Sarah Spero.
Yeah, my name's Sarah. I grew up in Brentwood, California. Went to Edge Hill Middle School. Which is how we know each other. And I was super involved in theater, starting from a pretty young age, and then all the way through professionally till about 3 years ago. That's what I did as a full-time job. So yeah, I went to Liberty High School as well, and then was heavily involved with drama there, and then went to DVC from there to study my undergrad for theater. And then I ended up getting an internship with the California Shakespeare Theater from there. And that led to a bunch of jobs in the Bay Area theater scene. So I stopped going to DVC and started working full-time, and ended up working at Cal Shakes for 7 years, and then at pretty much all the other Bay Area theaters as well at some point or another as a props artisan and scenic painter. Yeah, and I've recently moved to Portland, Oregon, where I've quit the theater life and jumping into making other stuff. I've been working on learning how to make furniture a lot lately, and then my most recent foray has been into building a tiny house.
Yes, and that's just been completed, right?
Not quite. We're not living in it yet. The exterior is done, and I'm on to the finishing touches on the inside now. So it's a functional house, but it doesn't have like a couch or a kitchen counter or anything yet. So.
Okay, so how far out are you think, from moving into that? It's hard to say. Is it hard to say?
It's so hard to say. Yeah, we thought we'd moved in October of last year, and we aren't. So someday.
Has the current shelter in place and all the different what's happened, has that had an effect on that move-in?
A little bit, but not a ton. I'm really lucky in that my partner works remotely online already, so we're doing all right in that respect. And yeah, I've been working on the tiny house full time for just about a year this month. So a lot of it has stayed the same for us. We've been working on our property and yeah, just taking less trips out to get supplies and things, a lot less, but for the most part, just working along here. So.
Yeah, I was asking about just how the shelter in place has affected the tiny house, but you segued into how you're handling it, just far as in general as well. It seems so everything, it hasn't hit you too hard because of your ability to work at home and stay at home. Just the only thing is it's just hitting your ability to go out and socialize that stuff a little bit more.
Yeah. And I mean, it obviously affects one thing that we've been trying to work into the tiny house build is a lot of reclaimed materials, and we've been doing a lot of vintage shopping and getting things secondhand, and that's affected a lot because all those stores are shut down. So we've been doing a lot more just regular hardware store shopping, but yeah, we've got my partner Kevin and I live on half an acre here, and we have a pretty large functional garden, as well as a bunch of chickens. And we kind of have been working more and more towards being sort of self-sustaining on our property and in our lifestyle over the past 3 or 4 years. And this has been a really interesting test of that. kind of, and sort of pushing us more in that direction. We've our garden is really starting up in earnest this year, and we have just like way more food than the two of us could eat. Kind of
Wow.
just to see what we could do, you know, and to sort of kind of serve as a little bit of a fallback for like friends and family if somebody were to be in dire straits. Like we have plenty to share and to go around, so we're kind of pushing ourselves more in that sort of homestead direction to see what comes of it. And this has been a really interesting motivation for that.
Wow. So the idea is to push towards sustainability. Wow, I had a lot of trouble with that. Self-sustainability, and the fact that you have grown not only enough for you guys, but more than you'd ever need. That's got to be super like encouraging, right? I mean, that's really crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's very satisfying and very it helps me feel prepared when things are so like we don't know what's happening and when it's going to happen, and you know, everything's very up in the air, and it feels really good to me to like literally get my hands dirty and know that I'm helping prepare for my immediate future in a very human way, you know, that like no matter what goes on, we got veggies, we got chickens, we're chilling.
Yeah. Now, have you thought about, or have you shared any of I'm gonna call it your bounty, like with neighbors? Any like, is there like a farmer's market where you can share some of that with people that are around you that might not be as lucky to have all of that stuff, or like just some local food banks, things like that?
That's definitely our plan, especially with this year. So this is only our second year really growing a huge garden and being able to make any sort of dent in our bill, you know. So last year we did that a bit with some community. We had some folks living on our property actually with us through last summer. And so that helped feed all of us. There was 8 of us through last summer, and we got to eat a lot of our food directly from our property. And this year it's just the 2 of us right now. So we're planning, you know, it's there's not that much yet as it's the beginning of spring, but we're planning to share it much more with community outside of our property this year. And yeah, through farmers market. And we've been giving like plant starts and eggs and things to our immediate neighbors.
That is so cool. I mean, I would love to be your neighbor, especially in those early stages when like we'd go to the store and we couldn't get any eggs, and to have you like walk over and be like, hey, here's a dozen eggs, or it should be like, oh, thank you. It'd be amazing. So of course I've known you growing up within the theater realm. If like if there's ever a tech situation, it's like, call Sarah. How have you become, what word am I looking for? I mean, you're not an expert, I don't think yet, but how have you learned to do this farming and growing? Has it been just like you're going on the internet and searching it out and trying things, or does your partner have some previous experience with that? Just curious because it sounds like it's going really, really well, and just I would love to know how you kind of gain that knowledge.
As far as the actual gardening part, both of us are pretty much novices, I would say. Kevin has more experience than I do, but we're both really just learning as we go and leaning heavily on the internet and books and things. It's incredible the amount of information there is out there about how to grow vegetables and how to, you know, take care of that kind of stuff. So we do mostly look at the internet for that. But this is, like I said, our second year growing a lot of food, and it's amazing how much you learn by just doing it.
Just doing
last
it and
year we learned
taking
so much.
I say, like I was going to say, you know, you've talked about what's gone well, but were there some things that didn't quite go so well that you learned from as well?
Sure.
Yeah,
with the garden,
right?
maybe not as much because we live within Portland city limits, so we live very close to like plenty of food options, you know. which is kind of neat because we're getting to experience the fun parts of growing your own food without having to experience the bad parts of growing your own food, which is like if a crop were to fail, we just go to the grocery store.
Right.
So, and through the winter when we can't really grow things here as easily, just go to the grocery store.
Right. It's not ultimate survival. Yeah.
Which is a great way to learn, because then it's like, wow, look at this broccoli that we got out of the garden. But if the broccoli fails, that's okay.
Right. Go to the store.
We've definitely had a lot more of a learning curve with building the tiny house, because that's something that's like, if we make a mistake or we didn't have the right information when we started a thing and we need to pivot and change, then there has been a lot of time spent like doubling back, doing more research, totally redoing things, calling in experts to help us when we need it. So there's been a lot more of that with the house build for sure.
Wow. Just such a neat endeavor, what you guys are doing. First of all, the sustainability with the garden, building the tiny house. And what a time to do it, just where when there's this isolation, it's like you guys are choosing, and I know you're not choosing isolation, but you're creating that space around you, and it's like you said earlier, maybe not affecting you as much because you're not somebody who's living in the big city where you're surrounded by bustle and you need all that interaction all the time. Have you been able to interact like through Zoom and just over the internet and stuff like that with friends and keeping in touch and everything? Are you feeling connected, or is that something where you're feeling a little bit something you need to catch up on?
I'm definitely taking advantage of the video call technology. I've talked to people like, you and I haven't talked in years, so it's really great to have a chat.
This is awesome.
And I've been talking to like all of my family, all cousins and aunts and uncles and everything, and friends that have moved away. I had like a pretty close friend group in the Bay Area, and we've all since moved away, so it's been nice to kind of have more of an excuse to catch up with those people. But it's hard to not have people in person, especially because last year, like I said, we had 8 people living on our property.
Yes.
And so last summer it was very much like, it was, most of us were sort of like my general age, but then we also had like a 3-year-old who lived here with his parents. And so we had this kind of like this real small community. And that's been hard not having that, because I was used to seeing multiple people every day. And now not so much, but I really like video chatting is incredible. And I try to keep focused on the fact that we're so lucky to have that, and just to have a phone call in general, and like looking kind of at pandemics of the past and seeing people like writing letters to each other, and that sounds a lot harder.
Yeah, that is something to, hey, give me one quick second. Patrick, real quick. Give me 1 sec, Sarah. All right. Yeah. Sorry about that. This was an unprecedented move. I had to leave the screen there for a second.
That's okay.
Yeah. Patrick, just because I'm sitting with you, and we have a special guest that I want to bring down that I think you're going to get a kick out of just in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So, just imagine what it was like, in some of those other, pandemics where people are completely isolated. They're not even able to be with family. Like we've set up a possible family Zoom tonight, to do that, to do the whole video chat and everything, and and to stay connected. It's almost like a win-win. You guys get to be out on your place, but you can still stay connected. You don't have to have everybody out there, right? All right. So hold on, Sarah. This was me being totally wacky. Yeah. So
I can't wait.
Here's the special guest. You may or may not realize we kept this, but we're going to go back in time to when you did remember you said you were involved in sets and costumes making everything else. You may or may not remember, we took something from you a while back, and Patrick, it has a prominent space in his room. I just want you to see that you still have work out there that is sustainable. Do you remember making that?
Yeah.
Remember, let the viewing audience see that. It's the most realistic large banana you'll ever see. This is on his dresser. remember, look at the ridges. I mean, on his desk. I mean, look at it. You didn't know any better. You think it was a real bit of Patrick. Thank you. He's got a
Thanks,
Zoom
Patrick.
call. I couldn't resist, Sarah. I mean, just an example of just the amazing stuff that you created along. Have you ever thought about going back into that realm? I mean, do you miss it? Or are you thinking about ever going back in and doing the tech, and if the opportunity affords itself?
Sometimes. I definitely miss a time and a place in the Bay Area with like a really great group and, you know, working at all these different theaters together. And I do miss working at Cal Shakes sometimes, because that was just like, I can't imagine a better theater working experience, really. It's like just such a absolutely wonderful place to work. And, you know, it's outdoor theater. And so it feels like summer camp, and yeah, I do miss that sometimes. I think I came to the realization that it was hard for me personally to take care of myself while also working in theater, because I ended up pushing myself, especially with professional theater, and working at multiple places at once. And I really just ended up pushing myself so hard to make deadlines and to get things to the quality that was expected. And just let things lapse, like, you know, eating real food and not drinking 8,000 cups of coffee a week.
Or the frozen microwave, whatever it is that you put in the frozen. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think that chapter is done for me. I would love to do more like props type making stuff on a smaller scale, like get sort of hired for just one object, like a giant banana in a play, and be able to deliver that, and be able to work on it kind of on my own time. I would be overjoyed to do that, but it's not really how the industry works so much. So
like if I don't know, hypothetically, like a middle school teacher was doing like a show and they needed like a really cool prop, and that said individual called you and needed something, you might be available to still do something like that.
I definitely could be available
hypothetical.
for something like that. Yeah, and hilariously enough, my dad still does that kind of thing all the time. Like he's done props for Liberty since, you know, way after I stopped going there.
Still have the rolling walls that he made for Ed Hill. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, you know, like father, like daughter for sure.
That much paint on him, right? Just unbelievable. All right, Sarah. Well, I think we should probably wrap up. I usually go like I always say I'm like 10 to 15 minutes, but you're so dang engaging. I mean, not that I'm saying the others weren't engaging, but just that whole idea of the of kind of, you know, stopping what you've been doing and then moving in, you know, and doing something completely different and making such a go of it, such a gutsy move. And it's so neat to hear that it's going well, and that it's ramping up for you. And thank you so much for sitting down.
It's so much influenced by theater, really. I find like my like getting it together and making it work on like a scrappy budget and like, you know, just making things work like that I learned so much in theater is just a lifelong skill, you know. And I'm so thankful to have that and have been taught that in such a artistic, fun, like loving way, because
you can apply those down the line in whatever you're doing.
To everything. Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge part of my life still. So even though that's, you know, that chapter is over, it's like very, very important to me. So
awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I still say kiddo, even though you're not a kiddo anymore. Thank you again so much for sitting down today. That was really, really fun.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Schneider.
Hey, I'm gonna stop the regular recording part right now, okay? Hold on.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.